Are you having a hard time getting everyone in the same location for that family photo? Have you ever wanted to combine two or more of your favorite photos to create a new image that's unique and interesting? Maybe you've tried and the results just weren't that remarkable. Well, the technique is called compositing, and I'll show you how to piece it all together today on The Whole Picture. Welcome to The Whole Picture. I'm Erin Manning. Did you ever wish you could take your entire family on vacation, but you just can't seem to get them there all at the same time? Well, today I'm going to show you a way to bring them all together using digital photography and digital imaging software. It's called compositing. Now, compositing is where you take multiple images, merge them together to create one single image. For instance, I was on assignment on a cruise ship, and I took this picture of a beautiful couple on the railing, except the day was kind of gray and murky, not a beautiful background on this one. So the next day, we were in a different port, and the sun came out, we had some clouds, and I was able to take this beautiful shot, this background type shot. So what I decided to do is merge the two together, and I created this picture. Isn't that great? So now the couple looks beautiful and the background does too. Now there are other things you can do with compositing. For instance, I took this picture of a little red sailboat when I was vacationing in Halifax and decided I want to make it look like I'm sailing this everywhere. So I put this picture of the little red sailboat in Barbados. Here it is right here. Looks like I'm sailing all over the place, doesn't it? And here it is again in Halifax, Nova Scotia, closer to the lighthouse. So it looks like this little red sailboat's going everywhere. I have a student, Peter Ritter, who has 2 daughters. And recently Peter had to do some traveling for work. And he took lots of photographs because he wanted to show his daughters where he'd been. He thought it would be a lot of fun if he took a picture of his daughters and composited it into his travel photographs, so it would look like they were right there with him. The only problem is he was having some issues making it look realistic and natural. So today I'm going to teach Peter how to work with his images and create a composite that does look natural and realistic. So the first thing you'll learn today is how to pick the right image for your digital composite. Next, I'll show you all about the concepts and principles of masking. Then I'll teach you what layers are really all about. And finally, we'll work with the composite on the computer and make it look really natural, like you were there all along. Okay, let me show you how a composite looks using digital imaging software. Okay, here's my image you saw a few minutes ago. I have the beautiful couple and the beautiful background. And remember I told you how a composite is multiple images merged together? Well, that's what I did here. And I did it by using something called layers. Here's the layer palette over here on the right, and you'll see I have a few layers going here. Well, the first layer I brought in was my background, okay? The second layer I brought in was my couple. I cut them out of another photograph and brought them in as a layer. So you can see how these layers, if you're highlighted, say, on my couple layer, I can work on the couple here and not affect anything else in this composite. It's pretty cool. And just for fun, I decided to add in the picture of my sailboat. Now you can see how you can add in multiple layers to create any kind of image you want. All right, now while I set up for Peter, go ahead and take a look at some of the other composites I created. Composite images can be anything as simple as changing a skyline of a particular photo to layering pieces of multiple photos to create a complex collage of images. When compositing your digital photos, you can be as creative as you want to build images that can bring families together or create places that only exist in your imagination. Coming up, I'll show you how to select photos to create composite images that look realistic and explain what masking is and why it's important in compositing. Have you ever wanted to combine the best parts of 2 different photos to make an entirely different image? My student Peter has been traveling a lot on business and wants to be able to place his 2 young daughters in some of the photos he's taken on the road. Through the technique of compositing, I'm going to help Peter feel like his daughters were with him every step of the way. Welcome back. I'm here with my student Peter Ritter, and we're looking at some of his images. Now, Peter, you mentioned you took a lot of these pictures when you're traveling for business, right?
Yes, I've been traveling quite a bit and taking a lot of images, and some of the problems that I'm having is I can't get my girls with me at the same time when I travel.
Right.
So what I did is I tried to do a composite image.
Okay.
And it just doesn't look natural.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look too natural, and I would say the reason being is because the light direction is different from the foreground to the background. For instance, looking at your girls, which direction would you say the light's coming from there?
The light appears to be coming in at about an 11 o'clock angle, I'd say.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to mark it with an arrow. It's coming from about that direction there. And then looking at the background, which direction would you say the light's coming from?
It straight down.
Yeah, so like a different time of day. At noon, I would say, high noon. So we'll mark it with a blue arrow.
Okay.
So this is really the first sign of a not so natural looking digital composite, when the light's coming in from different directions. When choosing photos to create a realistic looking composite, be sure to avoid backgrounds with light coming from too many directions or photos with low light. It will be harder to match the light of foreground subjects, and your composite won't look as natural. Be sure to notice the direction of light in each photo, and I recommend using arrow tabs to mark the light direction on each one. A good rule of thumb is to choose a photo with as much even light as possible. This will make it much easier to match the subject in the foreground. If you're adding people in your composite, be sure to select an image that either has light coming from the same direction as the background, or a photo that has even light across each person's face. Once you've selected the photos you want to use, scan each image and upload them to your photo imaging software. Well, now that you've chosen your images, and I went ahead and transferred them to this computer, you need to go in and take out the elements from each image you want to use in your composite.
Okay.
So now's a good time to talk about what masking really is.
Great.
Okay, masking is a way to go in and select the certain elements in your image and take them out so you can use them in your composite.
Okay.
All right, so now what most people would do to mask is they'd come over here to the toolbox and click on a selection tool, and then use the mouse to draw around the object to take it out of the image.
Okay.
But what I happen to have is a professional graphics tablet that's actually combined with the screen. So if you want to take that pen tool right there and just click on this little thing in the toolbox right there, the eraser tool, and just for fun, kind of play around, and you can actually paint on the screen on that image.
That's really cool.
Wasn't that neat?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to work with. So I'll get rid of that. Okay, now the first thing we want to do when we start masking is to come over here to the toolbox and pick a selection tool. Let's go with the paintbrush. Selecting the brush tool gives you the ability to highlight certain items within the image that you want to use for your composite. Next, go to the options bar and choose Mask from the Mode menu. At this point, it's a good idea to enlarge your image to a size you're comfortable working with by using the zoom feature. Select a brush size from the options bar and begin shading in the area you want to composite. I recommend starting with a larger brush at first and masking out as much as possible, then moving on to select a smaller brush size to fill in any details that were missed. Once everything has been highlighted, choose Selection from the Mode menu on the options bar. This will create an outline around all the areas that have been selected. Next, create a duplicate layer by highlighting the current layer in the Layers palette, choosing the Layer option, and selecting the Duplicate Layer function from the drop-down menu. To mask out the area selected, go to the menu bar and under the Edit option, choose the Delete command. This will erase all unwanted items from your image. Make sure the edges of your image look realistic and nothing has been cropped out. Then, under the File menu, select the Save As command and give the file a new name. Repeat the masking process for all additional images you wish to add to your composite. Make sure to always create a duplicate layer and give each file a different name. This will help you stay organized and keep files from being lost or erased. For more information on how to choose proper images for compositing, photo imaging software, or masking, visit the website at DIYnetwork.com. Coming up, I'll teach Peter how to layer all of his masked images together to build a single composite, and how to add shadows to give it a more natural look. Compositing digital photos is a great way to create images that can be anything from impractical to impressive. And by knowing how to select proper photos and understanding the concept of masking, you can use your creativity to build images that can be personal works of art. Welcome back to The Whole Picture. I'm Erin Manning, and I'm teaching Peter how to create a digital composite with his images. Now remember, a composite is made up of multiple images merged together to create one image. Now Peter, I wanted to show you a composite I did, and I'm going to show you how I did it.
That's great. Will mine look that good?
Yeah, I think it will.
I hope so.
Okay. I did this by just creating it with layers. It's a pretty simple composite, and I'll show you. I want to give you a visual of what layers actually look like. Okay, I printed out my images on some clear acetate, and I put my background layer down, and then over it I had selected out or masked out a couple from another image and then laid them on top of it.
Okay, that's great.
That's the whole concept of layers. Okay, so we're going to do that on the computer. So we have your 3 images here that we're going to composite, and what we did is we selected out these 2 images, and you can tell that the background is transparent because we have that checkerboard pattern, okay?
Great.
So what we're going to do is just drag these onto your background and start to create the composite.
Okay.
Begin layering by first making sure that each of the photos that were masked earlier have a checkered background. This indicates that you're working with a transparent layer, and you won't have unwanted items in your background image once you drag the masked layer over. Next, select the Move tool from the toolbar. This will allow you to move masked images onto your background. Then simply place the cursor over the image to be moved, click on it, and drag it onto the background photo. This will create another layer in the Layers palette. At this point, you'll probably need to resize your masked image so it will look realistic in relation to the background. To do this, simply click on the masked image while holding down the Shift key and make it the correct size to look natural. Many times, masked photos need to be repositioned to avoid covering things in the background that you want to see, and so the composite seems real. To move the image, just click on it and place it where you want it. Repeat this process with the other mask layers you want to add by simply dragging them into the background and resizing them to fit properly. Remember that the correct perspective is the key to creating composites that look natural. Once all the masked photos have been layered on your background, go to the File menu and select the Save As command. Be sure to click Apply when prompted by the dialog box. Make sure to save your work as a photo imaging document and name it something you can remember and recognize later. Yay, Peter, that's looking pretty good.
Thank you.
Okay, when we come back, I'll show you how to clean everything up and make it look even more natural and realistic. Okay, I click on that. All right. Coming up, I'll show Peter how to clean up his composite and give him tips on how to add shadows to make his composite look even more realistic. Welcome back to The Whole Picture. Making great composite images is not as difficult as you think. All you need is an understanding of how to properly work with each individual image to create layers that can be merged together and form a final photo that can do anything from bring the whole family together to create spaces and places that exist only in the imagination. Okay. So you've made a pretty good rough of your digital composite, but now we need to get in and clean up edges and make it look even more natural.
Okay, that was some of the problems with my last composite. It just didn't quite look right.
Okay, well we're gonna make it look better now.
Thank you.
With layers. Let's look over here in our layers palette.
Okay.
We've got our 3 layers here, the background, your girls, and this little cherub that we brought in.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and rename them so we know exactly what they are. The background's fine. If you just come up to the background, this one right here with the girls on it, right click, and we can rename it for what the image actually is.
Okay.
It's a good way to keep track of your layers this way, especially if you've got multiple layers you're working with. And now let's click on the top one and rename that one too. Just right click and rename it. And that's our little cherub guy with the book. Okay.
All right. Good.
Now we've got our 3 layers. Also notice over here on the layers, you see a little eye. Well, if you click on that eye, like go ahead and click on the background eye.
Okay.
And that will turn off the background. It means it's invisible to us. It's still there though.
Okay.
You just can't see it. This is what's great about working in layers. You can pick whichever image you want to work on and work on that separately from everything else.
Okay.
So right now I would suggest working on the picture of your girls because there's a little line thing we need to clean up here right around the edges. So to work on this layer, we want to make sure that we're clicked on that layer. So that's the girls, okay?
All right.
Now we're going to work on this. Let's clean up the edges. Let's zoom into it first. So we'll come over here to the toolbox, click on the zoom tool, and click on the girls a couple times. Okay, maybe one more time and zoom in a little closer. It's better when you can see up close.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to clean up these edges by coming over here to the eraser tool.
Okay.
Click on that and just bring your cursor out over and see how big the brush is. I think that's a pretty decent size to start with.
Okay.
And just kind of click and drag it right along the edge there. And you're working with the mouse, so be real careful and kind of dragging it along and making sure you don't erase any of her sleeve. Just get the extra edge stuff that's around her sleeve.
Okay.
Okay, you may want to take it a little bit further away from the edge because you're getting just a little bit of her. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll come back to this in just a second, but let's go ahead and look at your other layer now too. Go ahead and click on the book layer, and you can take the slider and slide over so we can see the book since we enlarged this. I'm thinking that's looking good. I think all the edges look pretty good on that.
It looks very clean.
Okay, that's nice. All right, let's come back to the girls. So go ahead and click on the girls layer.
Okay.
And we'll slide back over to them. And now we can work on cleaning up the rest of these edges.
Okay.
Let's come up here to her hair because I think we have some edges up there too, just a little bit.
Getting there.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm just gonna bring the edge of this not too far into there. Okay, there, just skim it, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe just kind of smooth out the top of her head there. Okay, we've got some over here on the shoulder. Just be careful, don't take out too much. I think that looks good. Let's kind of scroll down and make sure everything else is cleaned up around the edges.
Okay.
Maybe just a little bit here along her arm, just a little bit. Okay, and then down here. Okay, that looks pretty good.
A little elbow action.
Oh yeah, there's a little extra stuff over there. I don't know what that is, but that's not her elbow. Okay, kind of smooth that out. I would kind of just go right around there. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. Now, let's see. Let's zoom out on this. So click on the zoom tool again, and click right here so you can zoom out, and just zoom out a couple times. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the background layer back on and see how it looks.
Just click here?
Just click and the eye comes up and so does the background. It's looking a little bit better.
Yeah.
I would say we need to alter the kind of the light on them a little bit, and we can adjust that. We're clicked on their layer, so that means we can work with them and make, they just seem a little brighter than the background, don't they? Let's come up here to Enhance in the menu bar. On Enhance, roll down to Adjust Lighting. And we're gonna roll over to, let's say, Brightness and Contrast right now.
Okay.
Okay, so here's our little window. We can adjust the brightness and contrast of the two girls. So let's make them a little less bright. Just bring it down a little bit, just a tad. See now they're already blending in the background even more.
It looks very natural now.
It does. And you can adjust the contrast a little bit too, just by clicking and dragging on that slider and see what looks good. I think maybe a little more. That's good. Okay, let's go ahead and click OK.
All right.
Great. Let's save it and print it out. I think it's looking pretty good. To File and do a Save As. Okay.
I'm going to call this Test.
Okay. And go ahead and click Save. And let's go up here to File, and then we'll roll down to Print.
Okay.
All right. Now, I think that looks pretty good. You've got a nice border on it.
Nice
so
frame.
Let's go ahead and print it out. If you'd like to learn more about digital compositing or any of the techniques you saw here today, just log on to our website at DIYnetwork.com. Okay, Peter, are you ready to see the final print?
Very excited to see it.
Ta-da!
Wow, that looks wonderful.
It looks a lot better, I think, much more natural.
Yes, it does. I really learned a lot.
Yeah, you got in and cleaned up all the edges and the lighting.
It looks great. It really looks great.
It does. I think you did a good job. Well, keep practicing all the techniques you learned today, and you'll do even better.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great working with you.
You too.
I hope you'll take what you learned today and make your own great digital composites. Join me next time on The Whole Picture. Okay, go ahead and click on them on that layer, and I think we can do something wild. Let's try it.